Hello, everybody. My name is Irma Shutt. I am the Family and Community Partnership Technician for our agency, and today I'm going to be talking to you about in-kind, or how you may hear it called non-federal share. So let me share my screen. Okay, as in all our trainings, let's go over our mission statement. Nueces County Community Action Agency works with partners to apply comprehensive strategies to eliminate the causes of poverty for people of Nueces County. The objectives we're going to be working on today is you're going to understand the importance of in-kind, learn how to generate in-kind, review how to fill out an in-kind form. Now, what is in-kind? As a nonprofit, we need to generate in-kind to show the Office of Head Start that our community needs our program. Every year, Early Head Start and Head Start get a certain amount of money that they need to generate by the end of the school year. If for some reason we don't generate this in-kind, a couple of things can happen, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But in-kind is very important. We work very hard all year long with different events and volunteering to get our in-kind from our parents. How do we generate in-kind? In-kind can be generated a couple different ways. In-kind can be generated by home activities. So the homework you send home every week, that can be generated as in-kind. Another way to generate in-kind is volunteer time. So anything other than homework or home activities is considered volunteer time. So if you have a parent that comes in and helps read a book or helps clean your tables after breakfast or lunch, takes out your trash, volunteers in our kitchen, any of these types of volunteering is considered volunteer time. But if you have a parent that works and can't come into a classroom, there's also other types of volunteer time they can do. For example, if you have a parent that takes home your bibs or burp rags or towels, if you're at an EHS program center, they can get volunteer time for that. If you have bulletin board materials that you need cut out, your parents can take that home and get volunteer time for that. The parent can also set up your bulletin board and they can get volunteer time for that. If you have a door decorating contest, they can decorate your door and get volunteer time for that. Anytime you have a Café Mañanero meeting, a parent meeting, a meeting to talk about activities that are going on at your center, they can get volunteer time for all of these. If a parent comes in and has Thanksgiving lunch with their child, they can get volunteer time for this. So there are many, many different ways to get volunteer times for your parents. And we want to encourage our parents to get volunteer time because at the end of the school year, we have a volunteer event. So for our parents to get a certain amount of in-kind, they can be invited to this event. And the event varies. We've had tickets and a dinner at the Hooks baseball game. We've had different venues, like a banquet with dinner included. So it's different. Every year is different. So we do want to encourage our parents to volunteer, whether they're working or not. We have plenty of things for the parents to volunteer to get their volunteer time in. Another thing that we could get volunteer time for is donations. There are two different types of donations. You have a donation from, let's say, a parent. So even though our agency does not require parents to bring school supplies in, we do have some parents that volunteer to bring in school supplies. I'd say they usually at the beginning of the school year, they're very inexpensive, so the parent decides to bring school supplies in. So if you have a parent that brings in glue or crayons or markers, and we can get in-kind time for this. Now, just make sure that when the parent volunteers and donates this materials, they have a receipt. We have to have a receipt to show what each item costs. Now, there is a different form other than the one I'm going to be showing you here today that you can fill out for the donation. Your family advocate will have it. Just ask your advocate for a donation form so your parent can fill it out and sign it and attach the receipt to it, and we can get volunteer time for this. Another type of donation is a donation from another company or an agency. Let's say you're having a Christmas event and you get the Valencia Hall donated. Usually, Mr. Valencia donates his bingo hall to our agency for a discounted amount. So between what you pay discounted and what he would usually charge, that in kind, that money in between, you can get as in kind. And there's a form that your advocate has that you can fill out, and he can sign off on it that says how much the difference is he would have charged, and you can get in kind for that amount. Now, we never turn away any kind of donation. Usually, whatever donations we can get, we can turn them into in kind. You just have to ask your advocate. If your advocate needs help, they can contact myself or Miss Bartley or Miss Escobedo, and we can let them know. Now, what happens if we don't meet our in kind? Well, a couple of things can happen if we don't meet our in kind. As I said before, there is a certain amount that Early Head Start has to meet and a certain amount that Head Start has to meet every year in order to meet our goal. Now, if we don't meet our in-kind goal, one of the things that could happen is our funding could get cut, which means instead of getting the full amount of money that we get every year from the government, it could be cut in half. And that's really something that we don't want to happen because we need every penny we can to run our program efficiently. Any money that is taken away from our program means less supplies, less materials for our children, less programs we can do with our children. So we really don't want our funding to be cut. We want as full amount as we can. Now, another thing that can happen is our program could get closed down. So if we don't meet our in-kind goal for a couple years, the government can say, well, you know what, Nueces County hasn't been meeting their in-kind goal, so let's take their program and we'll give it to this other community and see if they can run the program and meet their in-kind goals. So we really don't want that. Nueces County, I know, needs our program. Our parents need our program. We are a great program for teaching their children, so we really don't want our agency to be moved to different area. Another thing that can happen if we don't meet our in-kind goal for a couple years is we can be put up for recomp, which means another agency or another company can come in, ask for our money, and if they get it, then they run our program. So CCISD could get our program and put a bid in, and if they get our program, then they would run our program, and we'd have to follow their qualifications for our children and for our staff. Or a private agency could come in and request our program, and they could get our program, and we'd have to go by their regulations for our children and for our staff. And we really don't want that. We want our program to stay exactly where we're at for as many years as we can. So it's very important to meet our in-kind goals every year. Do as many activities as you can, meet as many meetings. It's very important. Now, the in-kind form I'm going to be showing you today is going to be an in-kind form that you're going to do with your parents on a weekly basis. This is one that you're going to be familiar with very, very quickly. We do have other in-kind forms, but your advocate or your manager will deal with those in-kind forms. This one that I want to show you is mainly for the parents. Now, when filling out an in-kind form, there are certain steps you have to take or certain things that we prefer you do or you tell your parents to do. Now, if for some reason your parents are having a hard time on filling out this form, I'm more than happy to come in and do a little training for them and let them know the importance of it and how to fill it out. I'd be more than happy. Just let your manager, your advocate know, and they will give me a call or email me. Now, when filling out your in-kind form, we do ask that it be in blue or black ink. Now, I don't care if it starts out in blue and it finishes in black or vice versa, or if it's different shades of blue, as long as it's not in crayon, highlighter, map color, or red pen. Blue or black are the only two acceptable, only because when our auditor comes in at the end of the year, every year, he likes to have it a certain color. Now, if you have a parent that came in and said, oh, I made a mistake here, what do I do? Just have them draw one line through the mistake, initial it, and then put in the correction. Or that goes for staff too. If a staff makes a mistake, just draw a line through it, initial it, and put in the correct information. There's no need to have your parent redo the whole form for just one little mistake. We don't want to do that. Just have them draw one line through it and correct it. And I do ask that staff make sure when taking the in-kind form from the parent that it's filled out correctly and everything is filled out. The signature, the date, everything. In-kind forms are a federal document, so we do need to make sure everything is correct on the form. In-kind forms need to be filled out and turned in weekly. Talk to your advocate. Advocates have different systems. You may have an advocate that will come to your classroom and pick up all your in-kind on a certain day. You may have an advocate that has different folders in each room for your in-kind, and you put it in there and they will come pick it up from your classroom, or they will have you take it to them. Ask your advocate how they want it turned in, so that way you know how to collect it and get it ready for them. Once you turn it into your advocate or your manager, then they get everything organized and they send it to me. The first part of the in-kind form that we're going to talk about is the very top. Now, this part of the in-kind form is the only part that staff can fill out. Staff can fill out this part and make copies of it. That way the parent does not need to fill this part out every time. The staff can do this. Now, this can be filled out and make copies throughout the year. But if a name changes, so let's say you have a mom and she got remarried or she got divorced or her name changed legally, this form has to be filled out all over again and make copies. If the phone number changes, the address, the child's classroom, or the center they're going to, if anything changes, it has to be refilled out and make copies. Everything has to be current. So if you know that mom says, oh, I changed my phone number, this form needs to be refilled out and make copies. Make sure that everything is filled out correctly, and there should be no issues with this part. From here on, everything should be filled out by the parents. So the first box you're going to see is for home activities or the homework that is sent home. The parent will put the date, a short description of whatever the activity is, and 0.5. Parents are only allowed 0.5 per day for each activity. Even if it took them an hour to do with their child, they're only allowed 0.5. Now, I do want to mention that if you have two children in the same classroom or two children that are related in a Head Start or in the early Head Start program, they cannot have the same homework. So if you have a child in room 1 and a child in room 2 of Head Start, they cannot have the same homework on a daily basis for one parent. Now, if mom is working with one child and dad is working with another, or grandma or grandpa or older sibling over 18, then that's fine. They can have the same homework per day. But if it's a single parent and they're trying to do the same homework for the two children, that cannot happen. We cannot double dip in that way. Now, mom can do the one activity with one child and a different activity with the other child. That is fine. We can take that. Now, a parent has one child in early Head Start and one child in Head Start. That same parent can do that activity with both children because they're in different programs. So, and if you have any questions about that, just let me know. Now, at the end of the week, after each day has been put in, the parent will accumulate and put it in total time of how much time was done throughout that week, whether it's 2.5, 3.5, or maybe even 1.0 if it was only 1 hour for 2 days. So the parent will fill out the rest of that. Now, this part is for home activities only, so only for the homework. The next box you're going to see is for volunteer time. So anything other than home activities or the homework will be put into this box, whether it's volunteering in the classroom, taking materials home to cut or glue or put together, volunteering in the kitchen, going to a parent meeting, going to a event, whether it's a center event or an agency event. All those things will be put in this box. So the parent will put the date they went, description of the activity, whether it's helping in the classroom or attending a meeting or attending an event. They will put in whatever time they started and whatever time they finished. So if they started at 8 a.m. and they finished at 9 a.m., and then the total time. So between 8 and 9, it's 1 hour. So for total time, they would put 1 hour. If they attended multiple things during the day, during that week, or volunteered multiple times during that week, they would put all those times in this box. And at the end of the week, they would put whatever the total time was for at the end of the week. Now, this part, they can accumulate as much in kind as they can. If they're there for 2 hours each day helping in the classroom, at the end of the week, they can put that total amount. There is no restriction on this part. The last part is the signature part, where it says volunteer time. The parent that turns in the in-kind, that's where they will sign and date. The staff that takes the in-kind form will sign and date where it says staff signature. Now, the volunteer signature at the very bottom of the form and the volunteer or donor name at the very top of the form need to match. I have had some instances where this name is one and the person signing with a different name, I need the same name. So if the top part is put under mom's name, but dad signs it, that cannot be. I need whoever's name is on the top, that signature on the bottom. And again, only because this is a federal form and we need to be as consistent as we can. Now, after the staff signs it and dates it, make sure everything is filled out correctly, then you would get with your advocate and find out how they want it accumulated and where they want it put into for their records. Now, if you have any questions or anything, I'll give you my email address in a minute. Right now, we're going to talk about the agenda. So you should have the agenda that has been emailed to your manager that says in kind and has my name on it. And we're going to go over the agenda questions right now. Number 1, why is in kind important to our program? In-kind is important to our program because if we don't get it, one of three things could happen. We could be put up for recomp, we could lose our program, or we could lose some of our money from our program. Number two, list ways to generate in-kind. We can generate in-kind by doing the home activities or the homework. We can generate in-kind by doing volunteer time, whether it's in the classroom or taking materials home or attending a meeting or an agency event. Number three, in-kind forms are legal documents utilized to document our non-fatal share requirements. And by volunteering their time, parents, family members, and community partners help the program meet the non-fatal share requirements. And that is true. Again, if you have any questions, please contact your advocate or your manager and they can email me what questions you have. My email address is right here on the screen. Just let me know. Again, my name is Irma and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for this coming school year. So thank you and have a good day.